I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks.
2 years ago, I was the most average person I knew.
A year ago today, I got cheated on by my girlfriend.
No discipline and no real idea of who I was or where I was going. I had potential. Everyone told me that. But potential without action is just another word for nothing. This is a story of how that changed, and more importantly, why it needs to change for you too. Before we get into this video, I want to be straight about something that most self-improvement creators don't talk about. I've been on this journey now for 3 years. 3 years, and I still struggle. I have bad days where I don't want to get out of bed. Days where I procrastinate the exact things I make videos about. Days where I look in the mirror and I don't think that I'm going fast enough. So if you came out here looking for someone who has figured it all out, I'm not your guy. But if you're looking for someone who is genuinely in the trenches with you, figuring this all out one day at a time, and being honest about all of it, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to be talking about why self-improvement isn't optional anymore. And I'm going to be telling you my exact story, because I have a feeling it's going to feel a lot more familiar than you'd expect. Let me paint you a picture of who I was. I had no real direction. I just wake up and just exist. I'd go through the motions of school, sleep, phone, repeat. I wasn't working towards anything specific. I just had a vague feeling that I wanted more, but I had no idea what that meant or where to even start. And being confident was probably actually the worst part. I was the kind of person that would overthink every single social interaction I had. I'd replay conversations in my head hours after they happened, convinced that I had said the wrong thing or I had offended someone. And I avoided all situations where I might feel rejected or uncomfortable. And then there was the discipline issue. I knew what I had to do. Everyone does, right? Sleep, exercise, read, journal, etc. But it was the lack of discipline where it really got me. And I knew everything that I had to do, and I had for a while. But there's a difference between knowing and doing, because those are two completely different things. And at the time, I was great at knowing, but terrible at doing. And I'm still not perfect. I was sitting in my room 3 days ago. 3 days. And I was writing the script for this video. I had had YouTube on in the background just to keep myself entertained while I was working. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was that as I was working, I started to pay more and more attention to the YouTube screen rather than actually script writing. And eventually, I was just watching the YouTube video. When I looked back at the clock, 2.5 hours had gone by. And you might think 2.5 hours isn't terrible, I could get back on track with that. That's not what I mean. What I mean is the phrase of death by 1,000 cuts. When you do something small for many periods of time, then it becomes very, very dangerous. So if it's 2 hours here, 1 hour there, 3 hours there the next day, then it becomes hours upon hours of work gone, or hours that you're distracted and you're not working towards something. And the worst part isn't even wasting time. It's just how I felt after doing all of that. I felt terrible. And there's a specific kind of guilt that happens when you let yourself down over and over again. And I think only a few people have really experienced that. But if that's you, then you're exactly where I am. A knowing that I am capable of more, but the fact that I don't do it really destroyed me. And over time, that guilt compounds. It compounds to start to feel like proof that you're not worthy of achieving something more. And I'm wondering if anyone can truly relate to that, because it has been such a huge problem for me in the past, and I have thanked God that I've overcome it. So all of that being said, what actually changed for me? One day in 2022, I was watching YouTube, which was honestly part of the problem at that point. I was spending hours of my day not doing anything until I came across a video by Iman Gadzi. He was talking about the lessons he learned that year, what he'd built, how much he was making, and where his life was at. And to be clear, it wasn't the money that changed me. It wasn't like I saw his numbers and thought, I want that. It was something else. It was the fact that he was young, like genuinely young, younger than anyone I had seen achieve so much before. And the fact that he'd taken his life seriously in a way that I hadn't. He made decisions that I hadn't made, and he put in the work that I hadn't put in. And something just clicked. Not motivation. I want to be careful about that word because motivation comes and goes. It was different than that. It was more of like a shift in how I saw the situation. I realized the gap from where he was and where I was wasn't luck. It wasn't talent, it was choices. Consistent daily choices that compounded daily. And if it was choices that got him to his point, then Why couldn't I make the same choices? And I know it sounds simple, almost too simple in fact, but sometimes the most obvious things in life just need to be said out loud. And if he could do it, so could I. Not the exact same thing, mind you, not his exact life, but my version of it. Just bettering myself. And that was the exact moment that I decided to start. Now here is where I can tell you that it was easy for me after that I had some big epiphany overnight and my life changed forever. But you know I'm not gonna do that. What actually happened was messy. I started making changes, some stuck, but a lot didn't. I'd go hard in on self-improvement for 2 weeks and then just fall off completely. I'd make progress, then self-sabotage. The difference between starting and where I am today, it wasn't the struggle that disappeared. It's that I stopped using the struggle as an excuse to quit. At 16, I started a social media marketing company. Now, I want to say that carefully because I'm not trying to flex. I'm telling you this because 6 months before that, I would have laughed at the idea. The version of me that had no confidence, no discipline, and no direction, he would have never done that. He would have talked himself out of that before he even started. But that business made me enough money to where I was able to take a gap year, to travel, to invest in myself that I couldn't have even imagined when I was sitting on the couch just watching YouTube, just 4 months prior. And I had started to build a body that I was truly proud of, which had been a goal of mine ever since I was a kid. But here's something that I really want you to understand. The business and the money, they're all just outcomes. The actual change happened with who I became in the process. The confidence I built through doing hard things and surviving them. The direction I found from actually being in motion, trying things, failing and learning over and over again. You don't find direction by just thinking about it. You find direction by starting the thing that you've wanted to start. So let me talk to you directly here for a second. If you're watching this video, something brought you here. Maybe you've been feeling lost. Maybe you've been going through the motions and just thinking that this is all that there is to life. Maybe you've been letting yourself down over and over again and you're tired of it. And maybe, like me, you saw someone doing something and thought to yourself, why not me? And make sure you hold on to that last one because that's the seed of everything. Here's the truth about self-improvement that actually no one talks about. It isn't about discipline. It isn't about consistency, and it isn't about habits. The hardest decision that you will ever have to make is the decision that you are worth improving, that your life is worth taking seriously. That future version of you deserves the effort of today. And most people never make that decision. Not really. They think about it, they watch videos about it, but they never actually take action with it. Then they buy a book, then they start a journal, and then they download that productivity app. But then a week later, they are exactly back where they started, telling themselves that they'll start again next week when the timing is better, or when everything quote unquote magically aligns when it never does. The timing is never going to get better. The timing is right now. The imperfect, the messy, and the inconvenient of right now. 3 years into this journey and I still struggle daily, but I would never go back. Not because my life is perfect, because it definitely isn't, but because of who I am right now. I am constantly moving forward. And that feeling of actually building something and becoming the person that you've always wanted to be, that feeling, there's really just nothing like it. And you deserve to feel that. I mean, I think everyone does, but it all starts with a decision. This channel is going to be exactly where I teach everything I have learned over the past 3 years of being on self-improvement. And I mean everything. How to build a respectable physique, optimal nutrition, meditation, journaling, reading, how to make money and invest it into yourself, and finally, how to become confident in your own skin. This is the kind of content that I always wanted when I was getting into self-improvement. And if that's the kind of content that you want, and you want someone figuring it all out right beside you, not talking down from some pedestal, then please consider subscribing because I have a lot more coming. And if you're at the very beginning of this journey, or even just thinking about starting, drop a comment down below. Tell me where you're at. I read all of the comments. So let's actually start and build something together here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.